Hello everyone, welcome to the sixth video of DevOps Expert series. I'm very glad that you are here and you still choose to be the expert. So let us begin our sixth class, and we have several topics that we'll be covering today. And all of these topics from my own experience are very valuable to a beginner DevOps engineer because when we're using source control as our tracking tool, there are these complications are very natural, and understanding these details will help you a lot. So let us first see what are the topics that we'll be covering for our video. So number one, we'll be understanding the difference between Git pull versus Git fetch. Um, this will help you resolve a lot of like merge conflict that is going to happen whenever you're working with a large or different team members in general. And on our last video, we pushed our local repo to our remote repo. But today we are gonna go the reverse route. We are gonna clone our remote repository, and then we will clone clone that remote repository and turn it into a local repository and start working on it. That's how most of the work is done, especially if you are joining a new team, and let's say that team has been operating for many years and you are just a new member. So that way you don't like develop everything from the scratch. There is already a repo available and you start working on that repo. So during that time, cloning is very important, and that's the first step which you usually do at your work. So we'll understand about cloning our repo, and then we will understand how to handle merge conflict. Um, and it will happen in any team. That is almost a guaranteed thing. And the next thing that I would also like to explain a little bit about is how to avoid that merge conflict. It's a very simple step, it's just a one step, but many times what happens is many people are unaware of that process. So, especially if there are like new developers in the team or who aren't used to source code, they need to be reminded of this step. So, if we go ahead and do that, we'll avoid a lot of merge conflict hassle, and that is I'm telling all this from my own experience. And the next thing we'll cover is also we'll learn how to add collaborator. This is very important considering the fact that whenever you're working on a repo or you are managing a GitHub repo in the cloud, adding a collaborator is um, another vital step that you need to do because there will be multiple teams working on a repo. So in that case, you want to give them different access. So that is a very simple step. Again, it's something that you should know about. And the final thing, which is again not a very complex thing to do, but it does help you in your DevOps engineering role, is adding git ignore file. And this is very important because sometimes, especially if you are working on a Git desktop, if you do not add a git ignore file and if you try to push like an empty folder, what ends up happening is that folder is not pushed to the repo. And the reason only being that you do not have a git ignore file. So I'll just touch a little bit about the git ignore file and the importance of it. So yeah, so these are the topics that we'll be covering for our today's session. So without any hesitation, let us begin learning. All right. So before we start with the demonstration, let me first explain you a little bit about the scenario here. So let's say this is our remote repository. So let's say this is this repository name. Let us give it just like one name. Let's say this is a conflict merge conflict resolve repository. So this the name of this repository, let's say, is a merge conflict repository. And let's say there is one DDL statement available as a file in this particular remote repository. So let's say it's a simple SQL script, create table one with different column. And let's say two team members join this particular team. Say let's give them user one and user two. And they are the new developers in this team, and the first thing they are going to do when they join the team is they need a copy of this remote repository on their local machine. So what they do is they will go ahead and get the exact copy of this repository, and this copying of the remote repository into their local machine is called cloning. That is what cloning is. It's nothing complex. So for that process, what they do is they will go ahead and first clone this remote repository into their machine. And let's say they were given their first task. So on their first task, somehow this they had to work on the same DDL statement. Let's say they had to update or alter this DDL statement. And mm, let's say somehow, fortunately or unfortunately, they started working on this alter this DDL statement. So user one started doing some alteration. So he did like some alter command where he started adding different columns to this table. Let's say column one and column two. And user two also working on this table one did some alter statement. So some DML statement. So on that DML statement, let's say he started adding some column. Let's give that name feature one and feature two. So um, so what will end up happening is they will first pull the changes. So when they clone, what happens? They will bring all the changes, and then they will he added column one and column two, and when he pushed the change, let's say he pushed column 1 and column 2 to this DDL statement. Let's say user 1 was the first person who finished his task and he pushed his change, and then he has column 1 and column 2 in our remote repo. Then comes user 2 who added feature 1 and feature 2. And now he's pushing, but then when he's trying to push feature 1 and feature 2, it says there is a merge conflict. And he gets a red signal. Okay, there is a merge conflict. He's surprised. Oh my god, what happened? Why is there a merge conflict? So, can you tell me a reason why there is a merge conflict? Think for a second. Alright, so now let me tell you the solution why there is a merge conflict here. So, initially, when both of these users pulled the changes to their local repo, they got this original copy. So, this was the original copy O1 on their machine. So, he had O1 and he also had O1. But then when he pushed the change to this remote repository, now this O1 turns into a O1 dash, let's say, because there is this new two columns added to this particular table. But then when he tries to push it, there is a conflict because there is a difference between the original blueprint. So the blueprint that he has is O1, whereas the master has O1 dash. So meaning this master is ahead of his changes. So that's why he's getting the merge conflict. So this is the scenario we'll be looking and we'll try to solve like how to resolve this scenario. But I hope you understand the scenario here. So these two are getting the original copy O1, someone makes a change turns into a O1 dash, and then the next person with his change try to push that, and there is a difference between the two masters. One is O1 whereas other one is O1 dash, or meaning this remote repository is now ahead of his local repository, and this is causing a merge conflict. So this will happen oftentimes in your project because many developers will start working on the same changes, and if they do not take care of um, if they do not do the right kind of communication, or if they do not make sure they know they have their recent changes in their local machine, this will happen often. And I'll also give you a solution how to fix this. So this is one thing we'll look in our next step. But before going to that, let me first try to tell you what is the difference between git pull and git fetch. So whenever we are, so this is our remote repository. So whenever you pull any changes from this remote repository to this local repository, there are two different ways you can do that. Either you can do the git merge, which means bring all your changes from the remote to the local, but do not, but don't merge it. Don't merge it. Sorry, this is my bad. So this is not git merge. So when you do git fetch, sorry, I misled you there. So when you do a git fetch, this is the number one situation. So what your local git does is it pulls all the changes to your local working directory, but it doesn't merge anything. So this will just bring everything. So you need to add and commit all your changes yourself. But when you do git pull, the next command, what it will does is it will bring everything to your local machine or the working directory, plus it will also merge the changes. So meaning git pull will you don't need to add and commit the changes. So it will technically bring everything and your working directory will also have a copy of it. So that way this is when once you do the git pull, you'll have the record in your local directory. So these are the two differences. So just a regular definition is it brings a local branch up to date with its remote version while also updating your remote tracking branches. So it will update all the branches for you versus it never changes any of your local branches. So this will only show you all the changes that are available, but it won't make any changes. And again, I will show you exactly where to look for this and how it is different from Git pull in our upcoming steps. So yeah, so this is the theoretical definition of merge conflict. So let us go ahead and see one example now. All right, so from our last video, I'm assuming you already know how to start your instance up and SSH into it. So it's just going here, you'll hit the start button, and I've already started my instance, and you go here and then you will just go ahead and hit the connect button and you'll copy this SSH script, and you should have the PEM file on your downloads directory. That's how you SSH into your VM. And if you have any confusion, please check out my earlier video. You should be able to spin up your VM and access it. It's pretty straightforward. And then the next thing is, I also assume you already have your Git repo from our last video. So this is the repo that I created from my last section. So once I have my VM spin up and then my repo ready, so let me begin by creating a new repo here. So let me call this repo name resolve merge conflict, and it's a simple repo. I don't give any description, anything, so I'll just create one repo. Um, so as I have already told you, in this one we're gonna clone the repo. So meaning this is my remote repo, so I'll copy the exact clone of this repo into my local machine. But before I do that, let me first do one thing. I'll first create a new file. Let's say from my description earlier, let me first have like one ddl01.sql. So let's say this was the base template that both my user 1 and user 2 have. So this is the base template. So this is what both of my user clone from the remote repo. So if you now see here, I have this repository and I have this one file here. So let me first go ahead and clone this repo. So I'll just copy this HTTPS file path, and I'll go and inside inside my virtual machine. I have my first push that was from last time. So let me create one new directory. So I will do make dir um, this resolve conflict folder. Okay. So okay, so I go cd inside the resolve conflict folder and let me do git clone and paste the location here. And if you see here, it was such a easy and simple step. So all I did was git clone command and it cloned all the files from my remote uh, repository to my local machine. So now if I see here, I should see if I go inside the resolve, I should see my DDL. And if I do cat DDL, I should see that one. This is the base template. So our initial situation is ready here. So this is the base repo is what both the user one and user two clone in their local machine. So let's say I'm the user two here in this case. Let us assume that. And let's say user one, who is my other colleague, who suppose made her changes earlier. And let's say she posted her change. So this is the change from user one. So let's say that is my colleague and she pushed her changes before me. So now if you see the remote repository is ahead of uh, my base template. So my base template only has this initial DDL statement, but she already has the alter statement. So now let's say I also start working on my changes. So let me use the nano editor. And I'll do nano uh, DDL SQL and this is the change from user to. So let's say this is my change and I'll hit Control X and I'll do Y, enter. And again, if you are confused about um, the commands here, please check my earlier videos. They should have some details about these commands. So I made changes to this DDL statement. So let me check here DDL 01. So I have the base, this is the base template, which is my initial code. And this is the change from user to, which is the change that I made just now. So now let me do git status. I see that I have my DDL change there. So let me add that. So if I do git add dot and then I will do the git commit m with the message this is user 2 change. So I committed my change. Okay, then I'll go ahead now and push my changes. So I'll say git push upstream origin to my main branch. So I'll hit that one and then you'll ask me for my username. And my username, which I described in my earlier video, if you see here, this is DevOps King 90. So this is my username, DevOps King 90. And then for the password, which we generated earlier last time. So if you don't know how to do this, please check my earlier videos. So I'll hit this C and I paste this one. And if I do this, it'll say it failed because of this conflict. So for this one, this is the step that we'll observe here. So let us first observe by hitting git merge origin main. So in this one, we only uh, so, so sorry, my bad. So let's do git fetch uh, origin main. So what this fetch will show me is it will just show me what kind of changes are there. So it will not merge anything, but it will just fetch it. So now where can I see this? So if I go to cd dot git here, and I will see a fetch underscore head. So if I cat, I'll see this ID. So let's try seeing git. So hmm, let's try this one. Paste. So if I see this git show command, so what is doing here is it only when I do the fetch, it did not merge, but it bring back what the change is. So it's saying me, okay, so this is the change that user one had made, and my master branch is ahead here. So I'm able to see the change. But if I do, let's say, git ls files, and if you see here, if you do cat ddl 01 dot sql, um, mm, yeah, so in my file, so I can see what changes are made in the root branch. But let's say if I go back and then if I do cat ddl command, I see that it hasn't merged anything. So it's here, this is me, that's user 2, and this is from the user 1. So now what's my next step? So we saw, as per our definition earlier, that git fetch only brings the change. So it showed me the change, but it did not make any changes to my working directory. So now my next step is gonna be, I'm gonna do git pull origin main. So what is pull gonna do is pull is gonna bring back all the changes, and it's gonna merge the change as well. So if I now, so it's saying me, you have a merge conflict here. So you have a divergent branches and need to specify how to reconcile them. You can do this by running one of the following commands. So it's giving me a different option here. So let me try out with one of this here. So let me just run this control C, and let me paste this command here. Git config pull reverse false, and it's saying me okay. So now if I do git ls files, I see this one. So now let me try to go nano ddl1 equal x. So what? So if I do here paste reveals false, and now let me try again git pull origin main. So merge conflict, it's showing me, so there is a merge conflict on that one. So let me do fix conflict. So nano ddl1 sequel. So if I go here, now it's showing me all the changes. So this is the part where I was explaining you that we need to talk with the developers and manually fix this issue. So if you see here, this has, so this is the base template, this is from user 1, and this is from user 2. So all of the changes are here. So we just need to get in a call and kind of figure out what needs to be there or what is the final change and decide. So in this case, I know, since I'm the one who made all the changes, right? So all I'm gonna do is, this is the part where I'm gonna remove this, because this is what it's just differentiating between different user here with these lines. So I'm gonna remove this one, and I'm gonna also, here I'm gonna do control K, so this will remove all the line. So now if I see here, this is the base template, this is from user 2, this is from user 1. So everything is in this file. So this is how I'm resolving conflict. I know this is a very simple example, but this is the exact same thing that we're gonna do no matter what the problem looks like. The process is the same. So now once we manually make this change, I'll do control X, Y, and enter. The only part now I need to do extra here is now I need to, like, if I do git status here, you will see these are modified and these are on track. So I need to make sure that I need to add and commit this again. So that's one of the part that I need to do one more time. So I'll do git add everything, and let's do git commit with a message. This is a push after a resolved conflict. And let me actually, this looks a little not organized here. Okay, so let me do this one. We committed and git push to origin, and it is again DevOps King 90, and my password here is this one. Paste and enter. Voila! Now you see everything is pushed. So let us go and check our resolve conflict here. Let's go and see here. Nice. So I see the base template change from user 2 and change for user 1. So this is the basic understanding of how to resolve a merge conflict if there is that change in different code base where different user work on the same file, and they commit and push their changes at different times on the same file. And if that kind of conflict arise, this is how you resolve it. All right, so congratulations, so now you're expert at merging any type of resolving, sorry, any type of conflict. All right, so let us see and go to our next topic now.